So, I was just browsing through Goodreads casually because I'm addicted, and I saw that apparently I am currently reading 17 books. And I thought, surely not. There's no way. But apparently there is a way. So, as my form of public accountability, I decided to make a video and go through them with you. So let's get into it. I haven't looked at these yet. I had just kind of opened it, so we're experiencing this for the first time together. Let's start with the oldest first. I definitely don't have any of these on hand either. Okay, first book on the list. The Unabridged Journals of Sylvia Plath by Sylvia Plath. This one makes sense. This book I started reading, and it was my goal to read it super slowly, like throughout my life, kind of. I love it. It's Sylvia Plath's journals, which is probably, like, fucked up. Like, it's occurring to me right now, that's a really, really fucked up thing to publish someone's diary. I've probably only read, like, 50 pages of it at most. It feels invasive, so maybe I'll reconsider this one. But I will say, at least for it to still be on my currently reading, is a little bit more justified. Because for me, this was never a book that I was going to read in one setting. I was going to read it almost like a collection of poetry. Very slowly, one, like, diary entrance at once. That's so messed up. Okay, I'm gonna need to think about that. Number 2, The Feminine Mystique by Betty Frieden? I don't know. It's always the white names that hit me up the most. This is a book that was published in, like, the 50s. I think it's very first wave feminism, where it's, like, just for white women, right? It talks about the insidious beliefs and institutions that undermined women's confidence in their intellectual capabilities and kept them at home. Yeah, that makes sense with what I thought. It's critiquing, like, the gender roles of the 50s and women being housewives and stuff like that. And we're picking this up because I'm interested in, like, feminism and feminist theory, but it's not intersectional. It's, like, just a white girl middle class issue, because poor people were working, and it's just white focused. I'm pretty sure that's why I put it down. There's no way I've read over 10 pages of this one. I do still own it though, and I am interested in reading this. I just think that right now I want to prioritize intersectional feminism, and learning more about that before I get to this older stuff that is white feminism. Next one's funny. Washington, A Life by Ron Chernow. Who was Sabrina of 2016 deciding to read a 904-page autobiography of our nation's first president? I don't know who she was. That's a lie. I know who she was. I picked this book up because, first of all, my dad's a huge Revolutionary War person. So he has a disgustingly huge library about the Founding Fathers, basically. And I had just read the Alexander Hamilton biography because, yes, I was very interested in Hamilton. I know that's a cringy thing. I don't support Sabrina of 2016, but I understand her. And I still think Hamilton's a little catchy. But, like, let's not talk about that. The Alexander Hamilton biography is very good. Like, it's just objectively very good. So I guess I wanted to read about George Washington. And according to this, I only got 360 pages in. I didn't get to anything about the Revolutionary War or America. So, I'm never gonna finish this in my life. I definitely returned this to my dad's bookshelf at some point. I'm gonna keep it on currently reading though, because I feel like 360 pages is a good enough chunk that at some point I need to guilt myself back into it. But then also I'd have to reread those 360 pages. Who knows? Okay, next one I have on my shelves actually. Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is probably gonna be the only one that I still have. I started reading this in 2016. Not a good year for finishing books for me. In my head I actually thought I got a lot further, but apparently I checked out at page 138. This is a high fantasy series. I'm pretty sure this is like, there's one main trilogy and then a million other series that branch off of it. I was really interested in it because I love high fantasy. I've heard a lot of good things about Robin Hobb. I'm also really interested in her as like a female fantasy author because a lot of the big high fantasy authors are all male. And this book is about an assassin's apprentice. It's about like this young boy who's being trained to be an assassin. What I remember is that it was just so boring. And that says something as someone who read like the first 4 Wheel of Time books and is still interested in it. It was so slow and I feel like there's nothing happening. And I remember people online saying like, oh, you just have to get through the first book. But it's kind of crazy that I wasn't able to get through the first book in 2016 because that was like my peak reading year. Like I read like 130 books that year, so it's kind of crazy that I couldn't finish this one. I do still want to finish this one though. This is a book that I think about all the time. Mainly like in a shameful way. Like, god damn it, why did I never finish Assassin's Apprentice? Anytime someone talks about Robin Hobb, that's all I can think about. I'm still interested in this one, though. Like, this one I do still actively want to read. So someday I'll get to it. Then we've got Consider the Lobster and Other Essays by David Foster Wallace. I started reading this one in 2018. 2017, it's looking like I finished my books, or at least didn't leave them on my Goodreads shelves. Yeah, this is a collection of essays by David Foster Wallace. In 2017, I took my first English class in college, and my professor had us read Consider the Lobster, and I loved it, and I had no idea who David Foster Wallace is, and it's kind of funny knowing now, but I bought this entire book of essays because I loved that essay and I wanted to read his other stuff. I didn't keep track of what page I was on, so that's helpful, but I know I got through like 3 or 4 stories maybe, and I feel like there's a story in there about like a porn convention or something, and I like lost any interest in it. Because I wasn't enjoying that one or the writing style. I do still own this one. It is at my dad's house, so I don't have it here. I would still read it. I hate how many books I have open on my Goodreads shelves, though. Another biography is the next one. Catherine the Great, Portrait of a Woman by Robert K. Macy. Did I say how far I got in this one? Oh, I had just said, too. I had just said in 2017 I finished my books. Apparently I picked this one up in 2017. I only got 150 pages into it. I've been thinking about this book recently, though, because I really love the Hulu show The Great, which is based off of Catherine the Great. Do want to learn more about Catherine the Great now? And I remember just some crazy things about this book. Like, I remember there was a passage where someone had, like, 50 pugs, and they would just shit and pee all over the room, and it was, like, commented on. I don't know if that was Catherine or someone else, but that's the only knowledge I've retained. So, I would like to learn more about Catherine the Great. I have no idea what this book is. Like, off the top of my head, I cannot remember what happened to it. I don't believe I would have gotten rid of it. It's also saying here that this is the second book in the series. Oh, Peter the Great's the first one. I don't care about men, so I'll skip that one. Another book I started reading in 2017... Les Mis by Victor Hugo. Of course. Like, duh. Did I think I was just gonna casually read Les Mis in 2017? Yes, I did. I only got 45 pages in. Oh my god, I'm just realizing that 2017 was 5 years ago. I was thinking it was 3. 2016 was 6 years. Okay, that took something out of me. Yeah, I have, like, a habit of picking up books that are definitely too hard for me. Like, not that I couldn't read Les Mis, but I have a habit of, like, wanting to read a casual, fun book and then being like, oh yeah, now's the time to read Les Mis. And then, of course, I don't actually read it. So this one makes sense to me. Got 45 pages in. I will read Les Mis at some point in my life. I have the most beautiful edition. I have the penguin cloth bound edition. I'm gonna fucking read it. Just not right now. Ooh, this is another book I have on my shelf. So let me grab it. This is If on a Winter's Night I Traveler by Italo Calvino. Did I say how many pages I got? Because that would be really funny. Well, it says on here that I started reading the book on June 26, 2018. I definitely never picked it up again past that day. I remember wanting to read this book because I saw, oh, I'm 18 pages in. Better than I thought, to be honest. I remember picking up this book. I bought it because I saw someone online had posted, like, the first sentence, and it was really cool. First sentence. You're about to begin reading Italo Calvino's new novel, If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. I thought that was really cool. That made me pick it up. And then I realized the whole book was, like, written like that, like, to the reader, and I just wasn't ready for it. And I put it down the same day that I picked it up. Thank God I said I was reading it on Goodreads, so now it's here forever in my currently reading shelf. I do still want to read this one, though. I actually picked it up from home because I'm starting to get more into, like, this literary fiction kind of genre. So hopefully this will one day soon be off my shelves. I have no idea what it's about, like, at all. That's all I know, is that it speaks to the reader like that, and that it's an Italian classic. That's all. Also, the cover's cute. Next book is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It's just Les Mis 2.0. This is just me wanting to be the type of person who casually picks up Frankenstein. I do think I will actually like Frankenstein. I think, do I have it? I do. See, I brought this with me when I moved because I knew it was a book that I will like, and I knew it's a book that I want to get to soon. Look how pretty. How far did I get in this one? This little thing that I have says I got 45 pages in. I don't believe that. I think I was using a different bookmark and I just took it out because there's just no way that I read 45 pages of Frankenstein and have no memory of it. This one was 2018 too, so 4 years. I guess this is just me, like, freaking out about the passage of time. But yeah, this is another book that I do really, really, really want to read. Do I think I'm going to casually pick up Frankenstein to read in between all of my law school readings? No. maybe during the summer. Next one. Flowers of Evil by Charles Baudelaire. I can't speak French. This is a collection of poetry. One of the families I used to babysit for got this for me for Christmas, which I thought was really sweet. He thought that I would really like it based off of a lot of my like dark but pretty photography that I've done. I did start reading this. The issue with this is that poetry is hard for me to get into. I really struggle to read poetry and to read like not huge, but an entire poetry book that was like 400 pages is a little too much for me right now. I have to ease myself into reading poetry, I think. When did I pick this one up? 2018 again. So, still very interested. Not gonna read this one anytime soon. It's gonna be on this shelf for a while. Oh, this book, the next book I do really, really want to read, actually. It's Drawing Down the Moon, Witches, Druids, Goddess Worshippers, and Other Pagans in America by Margaret Adler. I think this book's so cool. Like, it's a nonfiction, it just goes through pagans in America and different beliefs. I remember it being decently well written. I started reading this one in 2019, so it's a more recent read for me, so it is a bit fresher. But yeah, the author of this book basically attended like pagan gatherings and took notes. And it's a full account of neo-paganism. I think it's so fucking cool. I want to read this so bad. I will be coming back to this one hopefully soon. The only issue is that it's like 700 pages, so it's a beefy book to commit to. But I do still really want to read this one. The next book is Brave New World. This is, classic dystopian novel. I didn't get too far into it, so I can't really say what it's about. I started reading it in 2019. I did not like it. I thought it was so boring. For some reason, the classic dystopian stuff really, does not do well for me. I didn't like 1984, didn't like Brave New World. I'm just not a fan of, the classic dystopians. So that's why I stopped reading it. I was committed to reading it. I was telling myself I was going to finish it, and then I put it down, and I picked something else up, and I never picked it up again. I do still own it. I'm going to finish it at some point in my life. Let's just pretend that I didn't see that because I don't want to think about how I should finish it. The next three are books that I was convincing myself I was going to read over the summer for my thesis to do research. My undergraduate thesis was on the modern Marxist movement in America, so for some reason I had convinced myself I needed to educate myself about the history of socialism in the United States, which is not the case, at all. I did not need to read any of these books, and as soon as I realized that, I stopped trying to read them, and I started trying to do research that I actually needed to do. So the first book is The Essential Works of Lenin by Lennon. I definitely still want to get to this one. It's just kind of a hard one to read when you're in the middle of all this other research and a lot of your brain capacity is taken. But 100% I'm going to read this. I really want to start reading theory. The next one is It Didn't Happen Here, Why Socialism Failed in the United States by Seymour Martin Lipset. That guy, And again, this one's very self-explanatory. It talks about, why this man at least thinks that socialism failed in the United States. I do remember reading a few chapters and I liked it actually. It was a very well-written book, it's hard to find well-written nonfiction sometimes, especially when you're just taking a blind leap of faith and buying something just because you're interested in the subject. It's definitely a book I want to get back to. And from looking at the other books that he's written, it does seem like he could potentially be a lefty. Which is important to me when I'm reading books about commentary about socialism, because there's so many just right-wingers out there just spreading lies, propaganda, but we don't need to get into that. I will read that at some point in my life. It's just not a priority for me right now. After that, we have, I have this one too actually, Socialist Party of America by Jack Ross. I just featured this in an unhaul video, so here it is. It is a complete history of socialism in the United States. Do I have my bookmark? Oh, I do! I got 72 pages into this one, which is pretty impressive. Here's the tarot card I used. I'm getting rid of this. I'm never gonna finish this, so I can take this one off my list. I started reading this one in 2020. The last two were also 2020 reads. It was the summer of the beginning of the pandemic, and I apparently was very hopeful for some reason. Yeah, it's a complete history of socialism in the United States, written so terribly. So terribly. History can be written really well and it can be really engaging, but some people don't get that when they're writing about history. And some people just mention all these tiny minor details and expect that the things that they told you on page 10, you will still know 100% on page 72, even as they keep talking about completely different things. And it's very confusing. I also don't know much about his politics, so if I'm going to read about socialism in the United States, I want to make sure I'm not reading it from a right-wing perspective, which I don't know if he is, but I don't know if he isn't, so I don't want this in my life. So, technically, I'll be down to 16 books after unhauling that one. Okay, 2 more books left. This one I picked up right before I moved. That is The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration and the Age of Colorblindness by Michelle Alexander. This book is just an examination of mass incarceration in America. The author makes the argument that mass incarceration is like the new era of Jim Crow, and that it's kind of just continued on. It's just racist, you know? It's just like the new system of white supremacy in America. Picked this up in like, I don't know, August or October, and I wasn't that into it. To be honest, I went into it because I've heard a lot of fuss about it. My professors have made me read parts of this book in the past. Everyone kind of treats it as groundbreaking, but as I was reading it, I was like, yeah, America's racist. Yeah, racism didn't end with Jim Crow. I feel like these aren't groundbreaking concepts, and maybe that's just because I read stuff like this more, so none of this was really blowing my mind. So I'll read this someday, I guess, because I spent the money on it and I own it, and maybe I'll find some stuff in there that I'm not familiar with. I don't have any issue with the thesis or her writing or anything. I don't plan on picking it up anytime soon because I want to prioritize some other stuff. And then the last book I have to talk to you about today is right here, End of Policing by Alex Vitale. This one I just picked up. I will read this one. The issue here is I picked it up and then I put it on my shelf and I completely forgot about it. So I started reading this in January. I'm gonna pick this up right after this video. I'm gonna finish this book, and this is not going to be sitting on my currently reading shelf on Goodreads for 20 years. It won't. I'm gonna do better. So there you have it. Those are all the books that I'm currently reading, and I'm the worst, and I need to read all of them because it's kind of driving me crazy. I refuse to delete them from the shelf unless I've finished them, but maybe I need to revisit that. But yeah, that's all. Thank you for being here. See you later. Goodbye.